There we go. Hey everybody, Dimitri Bilgir here, and today's tip's going to be shorter, but it's another one of my healing work facilitation tips. So, and most of you who are watching probably do work with role players, right? We call it carpet work or guts or shadow work or all sorts of different things, but the work that you do is picking people to play different roles that with the idea of creating outside of this person what's going on inside of their head, right? For so many people, our emotional reactions to things are upsetting because they're so intimate, they're so close to us, they're in our heads and in our hearts. So one of the big things that we do is we will take an upsetting circumstance that this person faces in their life and kind of goes crazy around, and we have other human beings, role players, play those voices that speak to them when that circumstance is happening. Then they're able to get enough distance on it to be able to make some sort of emotional movement and resolution with what's happening. They may be able to bless the whole thing exactly the way it is. They may be able to set a boundary with a voice inside them that's giving them trouble. They may be able to love a part that's been feeling very alone. There's all sorts of options for things that we can do once we've taken what's going on inside of them and put it out into different people standing in different places in the room, saying different things, moving in different ways. But I want to give you a couple of different things for setting up. This is pretty basic stuff, but it's always worth a review. Now, especially when we first started doing this work, like, 30-something years ago, and I still see this error from time to time with facilitators, that they're really good at putting together, like if someone says, all right, I want to do a piece of healing work, and then they describe a memory they have from their life. Well, my dad would always say I wasn't good enough, or my mom would do this, or whatever. I remember a time sitting at the kitchen table when this happened, right? People will describe these specific memories, and then facilitators are like, great, I know what to do. I'll pick someone to play mom, I'll pick someone to play dad, we'll pick someone to play you, we'll get those role players out. And then we just sort of turn the crank and see what happens. Now, that works great, but what about when somebody says, well, I really want to be unafraid of my power? Or they say something like, I want to be willing to do more hard work. Or even if they say something like, I want to win the lottery. Right? These are all, there's no real people involved in these. And we can do regression, and I'll talk about that at some point. We're just like, okay, when did you first feel that way? Who was there? I'm not crazy about that, because you can go directly at whatever they're describing and turn it into a part. So the way that we do that, if someone says, well, I want to be unafraid of my power, okay, pick somebody to play your power. It doesn't have to be a person from their past. It can be just your power. All right, so I want to be willing to really commit myself to the things of my life. I feel like I'm not good at committing, and I really want to commit, right? They might say that. Now, one way to go is, well, who first told you couldn't commit, or when did you first feel like you couldn't commit? But in some ways, a faster way to go, in my opinion, a faster way, and arguably cleaner, is just to say, pick someone to play the things you're afraid to commit to. And you'll find out quickly what's actually going on in a structural way without having to regress. So no matter what they say, anything that they describe can be a part. I mean, I've had people step out and say, a guy stepped out and he said, well, I'm just really upset about what's going on with George W. Bush and Saddam Hussein. Whoa! I just pulled my headphones out. Sorry about that, guys. Let's see if I can bring myself back here. Wow, that was dramatic. So he said, I'm really upset about what's going on with George W. Bush and Saddam Hussein. We had somebody play George W. Bush and Saddam Hussein. And he learned things about himself because there's a part of him that was like that way George Bush was handling things. And there was a part of him that was like the way Saddam Hussein was handling things. He got to see those. So that's thing one. Anything can be a role. Anything that a person talks about can be a role. It doesn't have to be a person from his or her past. Okay. So secondly, how do we set out roles? So let's think about that. There's a very simple, I always call this the 3 Ps. And I call it the 3 Ps because everybody remembers it because it's kind of ridiculous. The 3 Ps are posture, position, and voice. Those are the 3 Ps. And now you'll remember it. Those are the things that you want to get when you're setting up a role player. What is their position in the room? What is their posture like? And what is their voice? What are they saying? If you can get those three things, you're going to have a role set up. And I add a fourth thing too. You want the role players to make you statements. Sometimes we see this with roles that somebody will say, all right, well, what does this part say? It says, oh, I'm not good enough. Well, actually, that's two parts. That's a part that's hearing I'm not good enough and a part that's saying I'm not good enough. Now, the whole point of putting out role players is to separate out all the confusion in their head. So if you have one role player saying something to themselves, you're actually not separating out the confusion. You need to break that into two parts. There need to be parts that say things to other parts and parts that hear things. So there'll be a part that says, you're not good enough, and a part that says, ow. Some variation of ow, or I wish it wasn't like this, or I hurt. So posture, position, voice, and you statements. If you just get those things right, kind of on the foundation of getting clear about what they want, which I've talked about in some of my earlier videos, you're going to set up a process that seems to run itself. So that's about it for today. I'll keep going on these. Some of these videos are high level, where we talk about just who are you as a facilitator? How do you bring your true self into your works in such a way that it brings even more healing? And some of them are just on like this really step-by-step things, like how do you actually lead and set out role players and have them speak to each other, which was today. So feel free to share this wherever you feel like it might need to be shared. And I will talk to you all tomorrow.